VRV podcast, episode 131, our weekly VR podcast where we talk about everything VR. I am PJ, and joining me is Andrew.
I am, okay.
Go for it. You'll probably do better than I will. So,
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm Andrew Jepsen. I'm at the Stalwart Games. We're the people who created Barbaria, and yeah, didn't mean to step on you there, PJ.
I do that all the time. It's my bad. If Wookie was here, he'd tell you the same thing. So yeah, it's great to finally get to talk to you. I've been kind of planning this for months. So, yeah, Barbaria is one of those games where I believe you're still in early access, but I had never heard of, and it caught my eye, and I was like, "What the hell is this? I have to see this." And got in touch with you and checked it out, and I don't know. We'll talk more about it, but I freaking love it. Like, so many aspects are so great. So just wanna we'll go through each one.
That's awesome, man. I can't tell you how gratifying hearing that kind of thing is. So I really appreciate it.
First question is, are you a one-man team, or do you have a team, or what's your setup?
No, I'm not a one-man team. This project has gone. The game Barbaria is it's been kind of a windy road to get here to the early access launch. But the team right now is two of us, myself and my partner David Logan. Andrew Jepsen, by the way, I didn't do the full intro. Hi, wait for the camera. But it's the two of us right now in development. There have been other people on the project in the past. It's kind of come and gone for various reasons. And we contract here and there when necessary at this point still. But yeah, we're primarily right now a two-man operation.
So, is this your first game, or is it just your first VR game, or neither of those?
It is my first VR game. No, not my first game at all. I've been in the games industry for a long time. About 2005 is when I started, got in, and I've actually been doing motion control games for a very long time as well. So yeah, that was the company I used to work for, Zindagi Games. We made we were the kind of company we made launch titles for the PlayStation Move when that was coming out way back. So so I've been doing motion control games about as long as anybody, specifically 6 Degree of Freedom ones. So
nice. Yeah. So VR wasn't super new as far as that element to you.
No, one of the the motion control aspect wasn't new. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the reasons I was so excited right off the bat about VR was, or its sort of resurgence with the DK1 and whatnot, was just because I love doing the motion control games. I was super excited when we got the opportunity to do that. I love the 6 Degrees of Freedom, sword fighting with my hands and all that kind of stuff, and then it kind of died when PS4 came out. The Wii went away, and PlayStation 4 didn't have the camera, and there wasn't really move support much on that. And then VR motion controls come roaring back. So yeah.
Was that your initial reason to kind of go with VR, or was it anything else other than just new technology or all the other stuff that goes with it, or was it mainly that kind of drew you to VR?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely part of it. Was the motion controls isn't an in, but I mean, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but it's so magical. Like the first time you put on the headset, and the first time I put on DK1, did the little whatever that is, Tuscany, is that the thing?
Yep.
Was that the demo? And so long ago now. I was just like kind of all in, right? Like, I mean, we get into, or I at least, the fun of game development, right, is like building these worlds, and I think a lot of us who do it have been doing it, since we were little kids, building imaginary worlds, and like there's nothing more immersive than, you know, being in the world that you're creating, and being as close to being, you know, having true movement as you can get right now. That was just super exciting. So I don't know, it was almost like, of course, kind of thing.
So with Barbaria being your first VR game, and I gotta tell you, like, how many, like, autocorrect now says Barbaria for me and not Barbarian, but in the start it was it changed it to Barbarian every time. Like, God damn it! But now it's Barbaria, so it's good.
A victory.
Yeah. So with Barbaria, for those who haven't played or seen videos, like, I mean, we'll get into more of it, but basically you create your own realm and you set up defenses, and you can test it yourself. You set that up like pieces on a game board almost, and then you go down into first person mode and then fight through it, and you try to conquer other people's realms. Which my favorite thing in VR is like scale. So I love getting both, you know, the small little minifigure type thing, and then going into that and running through it. That's so amazing to me. But I already forgot where I was going with that. But um, how did you land on this style of game for your first VR game, when, you know, VR, like you said, is more like movement and freedom and all that? So just curious how that came to be.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. I mean, we did it did start like our initial you know, the combat was what came first for us, like that, you know, motion controlled VR combat, you know, being able to use as many different tools. We wanted to be as systemic as possible. So that was all, that was the focus, and we were sort of experimenting with directions that we could take that, you know, whether it's like an open world or things like that. But like you said, to me, there's something super magical about you know, miniatures in VR. Like, like when we first were conceiving the parts of the game, it actually started. There's in the game. There's actually an experimental third person camera, which we just kind of put in there.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
yeah. As a, but the thing is, that's actually where the game started. We were like, well, we're going to make a VR game. It's going to be 6 degrees of free motion control, but we're going to set you back from your character and let you play like that, so you can see your character, third person action, and the camera going around. So we actually started there. So that's all to say, like, I love the idea of the mini models, right? Like, you're playing as your action figure, you're doing all that. So that kind of excitement was already there. I love third person VR so much. Like, I feel like it's, you know, everything's first person, and or almost, I mean, not everything, but for a very good reason. Like, it is kind of what people want. It is super cool to play in first person, but like, you know, I think that like my, you know, favorite game series of all time, like God of War. Like, if I could just sit there and play that third person in VR, I would love it. Like, I don't need the motion controls. I just want to be like immersed in the world. I love that kind of third person stuff. So there's not a lot of it. But so we were really into that, but then we moved to first person for the combat because it felt a little bit more natural. We've kept the third person going as an experimental thing, although that turned out to actually work out very nicely when we did end up going with this game, because in order to keep the third person going, we had to keep like a decent looking avatar for the player. You know, so like you're moving around, you're attacking things, and, you know, we have you know, our blend of IK and animation and stuff to like make that work. But what that allowed us to do then was pretty well, I won't say easily, but more naturally add the replay feature to the multiplayer loop. So like, when you're watching somebody attack your base or attack your realm, you know, you get to actually watch them play, and that came out of the third person. So I got one a little off topic, but so we're really into the third person. I'm like I have like a sideshow collectibles problem.
nice.
If you don't know what those are, like, they're the statues, you know, various different sizes. If people don't know, you know, like a lot of pop culture, like Marvel figures, Star Wars. I mostly have Marvel ones, but I love the miniature statues. And one day we were just like, well, what would it be like if we place some statues, and we were just kind of trying that out with the characters we had, put them on a statue, set it down, and we got super excited about how that felt. And we're like, well, what if we can, kind of have our cake and eat it too, in terms of having the miniatures and having the first person, the super visceral, immersive first person combat. And then we just started down that path, which was a little bit daunting, because there aren't really a ton of games, or any that I can think of, that have this sort of build your realm but then attack in like first person melee combat, VR or otherwise. I can't think of too many examples. I mean, it's a lot of people have described it as Clash of Clans meets Gorn when players have played it.
Sure.
Or it's another one I've seen in some reviews is a spiritual successor to the Epic Quest for Mighty Loot, which I haven't actually played. I do remember that game, but yeah, so we tried it out, we liked it, and then we started pushing down that realm, and the asynchronous multiplayer aspect is sort of appealing. We love multiplayer. We're a small team. When you're a very small team, your options are either very unpolished content, a short, narrative content game, multiplayer, or roguelikes, or I mean, there's other options, but that's a lot of the directions people go to get the most mileage out of
right,
out of the content. And multiplayer is, typical synchronous multiplayer is tough, because you have to have a lot of players playing concurrently at all times, or the experience is lousy. But the asynchronous multiplayer allows a better fit for the number of players who exist in VR in a lot of ways at this point.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the other parts of the game, but it is crazy. I'm surprised every time I pop in there, like how many times I was attacked. Because like you said, like one of the, I don't want to say the bane of the existence of VR, but the multiplayer is tough just because it is such a small group. You can't always pop in hardly any game and always find a match. So, you took the right approach, I think. But so for anyone that doesn't know, like I build my realm and I can test it myself, but anyone can attack it at any time. And just like you said, you can watch a replay of it and see where like they had problems, or they kind of went through really quick, so to add some more stuff there. And so you log into the game, you pop in, it says, hey, you've been attacked this many times by these many people, shows your wins and losses, and you can replay them all and watch them. It's really neat, and I love that you can watch them like really fast. And you, my biggest thing with games in general is just options. Like the more options, the merrier for me. And you guys have a ton of them with, like you said, third person and the replays and all that. And we'll get into some of the more stuff, but like it's just really neat. It was shocking to me being early access, and I don't know how long you've been working on the game total, but just kind of being newer, there's a lot of people attacking me anyway. Maybe it's just me personally, like people want to take me out, but it's really neat.
No, yeah, I'm really glad to hear that's been your experience. Yeah, I mean, we try to do our matchmaking such that that's people's experience, and that's by and large been the case. Like people haven't been starved. I mean, one of the things we're learning during early access is at the very, very high levels, there are people who have lots and lots of hours in the game, and like continuing, we in our last update, we had to make some tweaks to make sure that like they could still get attacked, because their bases had gotten so powerful that
Sure.
very few players would even get served them, right? Because it was basically so. That's a lot of the reason we're doing this lengthy early access, is because we want to like iron out those issues with the multiplayer loop.
Yeah, I have to tell you, when I first launched the game, my very first thing was like, I am freaking buff. If you watch the video, like you're just freaking ripped. It's so awesome. The second thing was just the visuals. Like I think it's gorgeous. Like the detail and just the looks of the weapons and the characters in the back. Like it's awesome. And then the third thing was the freaking combat. Like while you're fighting, you can have some allies, but there's a lot of enemies. You can pick up rocks and throw them. You can use their weapons against them. You can use them against them. Like there are just so many options. If you cut someone's head off, you can grab it and throw it at people. Like all kinds of stuff is going on, and when it's all happening, it gets so chaotic. It's such a blast. But yeah, the combat is just like it feels super good. Like you have sword and shield and like single-handed weapons. There's a bow. There's some magical staffs from the enemies. Like I have yet to get bored at all or even close. So it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That's we've spent a lot of time there, and we're continuing to add more content to the combat. But that was a big, making things work the way you'd expect has been a big pillar in terms of like, well, if I can chop off somebody's head and it's going to be laying there, well, of course I need to be able to use it. But we also tried to push that to, to like, if, there's rocks, and weapons laying on the ground. Well, NPCs need the intelligence to be able to go and pick those up and use them as well. There's actually one of my favorite, maybe even my favorite system in the game is actually, we don't really tutorialize it well. And I feel like it's, we still even have a little ways to go during early access to properly surface it, but as these, we call them one-timers, but they're more like teamwork things. We call them like a sports, like a one-timer is a hockey reference. But basically, like if you are, stun a guy or stagger a guy and grab him, you can toss him to your allies, and they all have custom animations and attacks that they will do to the incoming guy. So like awesome. There's the magical shaman enemy. So if you stun a guy and knock him to your ally, or if you just happen to hit him in the direction of your ally, we want this stuff all to be systemic, right? So it has to, like, whether you're doing it intentionally or not, we want a guy who's generally flying over there. The shaman will take his staff and like golf him up in the air and then fire a fireball and knock him out of the air. And we want that to, again, we want it to be systemic. So we want that. Then we want that guy to like fall and land on a spring trap that fires him back up off of the board. And then we have guys cannonball onto the board, which was sort of a necessary, or not cannonball, cannon back onto the board. They don't actually create a ball, but it was, we love it because it's like it adds more like high flying, more guys flying through the air. We kind of like that high flying feel to a lot of the combat. We want guys air juggled and things like that. But that came out of like, well, if we're going to let you throw guys off the board, which naturally, like, you're going to be able to do, it's going to be a real exploit if you can just punch everybody and just fire them off the board and they die. So they all recover, but it kind of keeps the battle going. And I think it's fun. Plus you get the goofy cannon shot and whatnot. Yeah.
And I love that the weapons you pick up, they're breakable. They'll break after a bit. So sometimes you are like just bare fisting it. And you have a little power that you can like super punch people. And the ragdoll physics are just freaking phenomenal. I just played the other day, and I think I was streaming it, and I punched one of the little guys, and he just went flying and landed on one of the background pieces was just a spike. He landed on it. And I punched another guy, and he landed on another one, and then they kind of like wiggled free and jumped back down. And I was just, it was so cool. You just throw anyone anywhere, and it gets so chaotic.
Yeah, we wanted to like. That's been one of the things that we focus on, this challenge, because we want to walk that line, because we want all of these things, we want all these emergent behaviors to happen, and that's super important, right? And like, and you can see by how much people love that in VR, by the way, that games like Bone Lab or Boneworks and Blade and Sorcery, where it's full immersion, but we're also trying to like straddle that line where we want to make a competitive, fair game as well, so it can't just all be like complete zaniness. So we're constantly trying to keep both of those things in mind. Like, okay, well, we got to allow all these emergent behaviors, but is there going to have to be something that, like, for instance, the guys fall off the spikes and they don't die, or the guys cannonballing back onto the board, because we can't have it just be exploits. It has to, the game, you want all these fun things to happen, but and that's probably the most important thing to us during the development of this game is making the combat zaniness, maybe.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like if you have a sword and shield, like your shield will go red if it's gonna break, and so you can kill a guy and take his. And same with arrows and other weapons. But one of the cool things, and I forget this so often, just because I'm just so into the combat, where you have some god powers too, so you'll kind of pop back up into god form, and you can launch attacks down on groups of guys. Like it's insane. You pop up into and see the world again, and you see your little miniature and all the little guys sitting there looking at them, and you just rain fire on them and pop back in there, and it's just chaos.
Yeah, we've added a few more of over the course of early access. We've added I don't know if you've seen it yet, but we've added a few more of those god powers. So now there's 4 things you can do from. So yeah, you're in there, you're fighting, you're like a little bit overwhelmed, or you just remember that you can do it because, like you said, you get so into like the moment to moment that you forget, and then you pop out, and then you can either drop a meteor strike, which hits enemies within a range with with meteors. You can heal. The new power is called one is called bamboozle, which basically just takes an enemy and makes them an ally temporarily. And then we have sabotage, which temporarily disables traps and structures and things that the person you're attacking has placed.
That's really cool. Yeah, for anyone watching the video, like you can place, you can unlock things and buy things. There's like a gold system. So in your realm, you can place enemies, you can place traps. There's like cannons and I don't know what you call it. It's not like just a large crossbow cannon and spawners, and really make it crazy. And then people pop in there, and it's just totally, you never know what you're gonna find. So it's pretty neat. But one of my favorite things is I have one of the skeleton generators in my map. So if you attack me, you can't use this against me. So it generates skeletons, and they'll like pull their head off, and they're like bombs, and they'll throw their head at you, and they have a timer, and they'll blow up. But you can catch them on your weapons. You can just catch them in midair and throw them back. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah, we like we like the skull bombs. And then I wanted to name that guy when we were the skeleton. I had several names that were rejected, but by myself and Logan. But I wanted to call him, like, for a while it was like Skullbanger, because I was like, oh, he's got it's a head and it explodes. And he's like, I don't know if like Skullbanger is an appropriate name. I mean, it is an M-rated game, but like it's M because it's like over the top violent. We're not trying to be like crass.
Yeah. But I could think of a few.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was playing, testing my realm, and so one of those guys killed me in my own realm, which I thought was rude. But as he killed me, I lay there dead, and you go back to God view, and he pulls out a guitar, and he's just sitting there like headbanging on my dead body. I'm like, that's so fucking cool.
Oh yeah, his separate. Yeah, I'd forgotten that his celebration anthem is wailing on the guitar. Yeah, we kind of gave him the spike mohawk, and I mean, they all have a little bit of a punkish vibe in some ways. We're kind of looking for like Mad Max meets Lord of the Rings meets I don't know, metal maybe.
It works. I dig it. Yeah, but yeah, just with throwing almost any item, and then you have bows and arrows and stuff. Again, like you attack someone's realm. I've walked in rooms where then suddenly there's like 10 things flying at me, like constantly, like, and it's really neat because there's so many like options. So you have just to defend, you have options, but also to attack and get around things. There's so much strategy, and it's so quick that you have to really think fast. You guys really nailed that, because I
Oh, thank you.
I popped. You can kind of, when you pick a realm to attack, you can kind of see their levels. So you can pick someone. They're normally pretty close to your level, but you always see one that's like really super high. It's like, what the hell? I'll hop in and live a minute. But it's just fun to like figure that stuff out. And like I said, you have to react so fast. It's so enjoyable.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you responded to that. Yeah, like we try, we want it to like not be overwhelming, too overwhelming, but we want you, like, one of the things we talk about, or the way we describe that we want the gameplay to work, is we want you to be making decisions about the cool stuff you want to do. We don't want you to feel clumsy and janky executing those things. So like, we want, if you want to catch that brick that somebody's thrown at you and fire it back at another guy, we want you to be able to do that. We don't want the challenge to be like, oh, it's really hard to get my hand in exactly the right place. And or the timing has to be exactly right. We want to make that as forgiving as possible within the realm of it not feeling like it's wrong, right? So we want to make those kind of actions as forgiving as possible. We want you to be able to, catch that brick, fire it at a guy, who's jumping back onto the board, and have that cool moment. And it's not that it's easy to do that, but it's not exceptionally difficult. And the bigger thing is, do I want to do that, or do I need to be doing something else? So like trying to make the actions, trying to make, the individual moment to moment things you can do as doable as possible for the player, I think helps a little bit when you're in that sort of chaos of a lot of stuff coming at you. And that's also part of the reason we included that you can bring allies with you when you hit, so that helps draw some of the focus. It allows us, right? Like if you walked onto somebody else's realm and it was just you on the attack, but it's that can be super cool, and it is in a billion VR games, and well tailored levels and things. But like, this is something somebody else sets up, right? So they want to be putting down guys, they want to be putting down traps, and it's like, okay, well, if that's all just comes at you all at once, that's not fun. So if I can bring a team of guys with me and equip them in such a way that they draw some of that fire, and I'm being a little bit, strategic in whether I'm choosing to help them or go, am I going right to try to destroy structures and let my allies fend for themselves for a minute? Am I popping right out to God mode to try to give them some cover? Am I, we want you to be making those fun, tactical type decisions as well, not just like, crap, why can't I mean, not that we're immune to this, but like, why can't I grab my axe? It's on my, why can't I want to pick that up, but I can't do it, or I want to throw it and hit that guy, but I just keep spiking it into the ground, So we try to be very as player friendly as possible there.
I appreciate that, because like you said, there's so much going on, and I'd rather have the ability to choose, like, I think this would be cool, I'm going to do this, and not have to like really worry about the functionality as much. But it's not like you just, things pop up and float to your hand. You still have to time it and all that, but it is a little easier. I'd rather that than, like you said, like, this just doesn't work, and get frustrated because it gets so chaotic. Like I'm glad you went there, because like if I couldn't pull my axe out just because I was doing something wrong and I just die, like, that's not fun. But
yeah, I've played some VRs. I've had the experience where like something is being thrown at me and I want to catch it, and that's very, very difficult to do. So we, put in a bunch of stuff to like try to make that easy to do. But I still don't ever think you would go to catch something in our game and then you would catch it and be like, oh, well, I wasn't supposed to catch that. Like, you still have to be very positionally correct. It's just it's as forgiving, well, close to as forgiving as it can be, while still making you do the thing correctly.
Sure.
Yeah.
And going back to like strategy and all that, another thing you guys have in the game is this little, like, so you kind of launch into your, I don't know, like, player hub, and you can create your realm in front of you. To the right, there is a upgrade station where you can literally upgrade anything you possess, including yourself, which is really neat. So if you like to bring in some help like AI buddies, you can upgrade them and strategize that way. You can upgrade your shield yourself. Like there's just so many avenues. And then to the left, when you go over there, it starts off, you'll see your win-loss board, which is really fun to look at. And then you have this nice little stage where you can pick your colors and banners. And what I love, you guys have a great sense of humor, it seems. You pick all that stuff, and this little goblin, some swanky music starts playing, and he comes out all like seductively and walking on the catwalk, showing off your colors and banner. Like that made me laugh pretty well.
Thanks.
And then past that, there's a shop where, not right away, it unlocks at some point, but you can actually, every time you come back from a battle, they're all random and it's all different. So you can get in there and buy stuff, and just the whole setup is really neat. Oh, and then the other thing, there's a music box, and you can go over there and adjust the music, but the box opens up and there's a little goblin band playing in there. There's just it's amazing. I love it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you really like that stuff. Yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff in the game. We're actually adding some more of those in our next update. I believe we're targeting the end of next week to get out our next update. So we have some more of that stuff. Some more of those stations around your area ready to go. Yeah, we should come up with an actual in-game fictional name for that. I don't think we've ever actually addressed that space by name in dialogue. Well, anyway. Yeah, the runway goblin is one of my favorite, absolute favorite things in the game. Yeah, and I love the band too.
That's awesome.
Tiny goblin trio. But yeah, it's clearly like I don't know if we've done ourselves a disservice, but it is, the game does not take itself too seriously.
No, I think you guys hit the right mix, and
it's our goofy sense of humor, I guess.
Yeah, I start watching the video and then I get pulled away. I'm gonna turn over here, but I'm just curious. Like,
I love it. Like, it's funny. I haven't really been in a VR experience where there's like a live video playing on a screen, and we talked about in the spirit of like those stronghold stations. This isn't something we've added yet, but talked about like a Barbaria TV spot, or you walk over there and you're. Well, there, I just threw it out. Internally in code, it's called the stronghold. So that's what I would refer to it as, your hub area. But we might come up with a better deity adjacent name for it. But like a little station you walk over to, and like the TV like pops up and like plays whatever goofiness we wanted. I think Barbaria TV would be a lot of fun. Anyway, and just looking at this. It confirms it.
Yeah, when Wookie and I were first building this, we just had our old like Xbox videos on there testing it out, and we literally just stopped talking and sat here and watched it because it's just so big, and you're just like, that's awesome.
that speaks to like how I mean, right? Like I love VR, so like I'm not like a unbiased observer of the platform, but for a reason, and that's another one, right? Like, it's just so cool watching like big screen VR. I haven't actually used that app, but like that even that concept is rad.
It's a great app.
I should use it. I have 2 little kids. I should just be watching movies at night in my VR headset and with headphones on instead of monkeying with the volume on the big TV.
Yeah, it is nice for that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
Oh, I was derailing myself. It's fine. Just kind of curious with the game and being your 2-man studio. I'm always wondering, like, do you have a roadmap, and do you have like a set goals and a length of time you want to work on the game before you go to something else, or are you one of those teams where like this will be your focus, and then once you get to a good spot, you'll kind of half work on another game and start divvying it up type of thing? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that we'll be continuing to work on this for quite some time is the plan. Like I've said this before that like, at some point, I don't have anything specific to announce. We'll be coming out of early access, and at some point beyond that, like it'll be about like how well the game does. But assuming that we can, hit the level of sustainable success that we anticipate, I would work on this for the next 10 years. Like I love it. This is like there's so much we can do. Like, you talked about like, like the way that your realm comes up in the hub world, but like we could add other things. And primarily right now there's attack other players, right? We have some other game modes where like we have some wave defense things that you can do in your own realm. But we're also in our update that's coming out next week. We have a way to like serve like challenge levels that we put together without like updates, right? Like just from the cloud to serve challenge levels where we can just put together a fun little whatever we want and serve content that way. Like you could imagine that we would love to. The game is an asynchronous, but many players have said, and we of course would love to do like co-op. So we have like do like co-op raids or co-op missions. This would be great fun to play. Obviously, that is a huge, maybe not obviously, but if it's not obvious, that is a huge undertaking, time and financially expensive undertaking. So there's things like that are on our further out roadmap. We have a roadmap that we're executing right now. We are among the worst people in the world at the moment at communicating that to our players. But like I said, there's an update that we've been working on that's coming out at the end of next week. Is again the planned release date for it. But we have several more like that that are in the work, where the content's already in the works, and then we have longer term goals as well. So we see this as a long term thing that we could be working on and expanding and building for a long time. It's a game that could continue to grow. And
you have no idea your question, but how happy that makes me to hear
that. That's awesome.
If you ever need ideas, I got a lot of ideas.
Absolutely. We're always looking for ideas to feedback. I mean, we have we have a million ideas, but some it's like sometimes because we we kind of live, eat, sleep, and breathe this. So we think of ideas and that's kind of cool, and then you of course time you don't get to it, and then it comes back. But then like you hear that same idea or something adjacent to that idea come from like 3, 4, 5 other people, and you're like, oh, maybe that was maybe we need to pull that one to the top of the pile. And this other thing that we thought of yesterday, we think is the most important thing in the world. Maybe not. No, we're not that fly by night, but.
So, I have I think it's a 2-part question, and this is coming from a person where I am very much. I'm a PC VR person. Like I love mobile, and Quest is great, and all this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you already know what I'm going to ask you, and you probably hear it a lot. Because currently, this is only PC VR available on Steam and Oculus Rift S. Right. Do you have plans to bring it to mobile, or are you kind of just wanting to get it where you want it, and then maybe future down the road? Or
what I can say about that is, we would like to bring it to standalone because we want to get it in front of as many players as possible. I don't have too much specific to say about that at this point, but I will say, like, it's no secret also that the standalone player base is currently much larger than the than the Steam one. So there's reasons to want to be there. We built it PC VR first. I mean, there's several reasons that went into that, but one is like we have we had some very talented artists make some really cool looking stuff for us that we are just really in love with, and we wanted that to put it in its, absolute best PBR rendered glory we could. We thought, we think we have some things like visually that, that stand out. We thought that given the quality of stuff and the talent of the artists that made it, we could get a little bit of we could visually stand out from the crowd on even on PC VR, where there's not, obviously that's not where the funds are directed for development these days.
That's why I hate asking that question, because it's like I think it's gorgeous. It is very eye-catching and it looks great, and that's what I want. But I know, like you said, the player base obviously and the funding is all focused over there, so I hate asking that question. But I also I love devs, so it's like I also want you to be able to make money and keep making shit. So
appreciate that. Yeah, that's that is the reality industry. We do need to support ourselves. But yeah, I mean, and I actually, until we launched the game, I didn't realize how far like some of these things like virtual desktop and Airlink had come. But there is something like kind of magical about playing when you're not connected. And I didn't realize how good that had gotten for PC VR, without a dedicated setup. I think it's been pretty good with a fully dedicated setup for a while, but
right.
But playing Untethered is pretty rad. When you get the best of both worlds, you get the the power of the PC rendering it.
Yeah, the first time I got my Quest, played it in my yard with the size of my yard, was just as epic as the very first time I tried VR. So I mean, I get both ends. I love both of them, but it's my favorite time in VR was like a game would come out, and this is not every dev could do this, but most did. Cross buy, cross play, so you could buy it once, get it on everything, have it wherever you want it. Because like I love PC VR, that's my preferred method, but I also want to go show it off and take it and play it on vacation and all this and that. And that was my favorite thing. And then people started dropping off the PC VR side. I'm like, oh shit, I don't like this. Like, so like I said, I love that there's still games coming out for it, but I also worry about devs that do that, because it's like the focus is over here and it's kind of scary, I'm sure. So
and we'll see. PSVR 2 is coming around the corner here shortly, from my understanding. So that will, I think that could benefit people who love PC VR, even if they don't buy a PSVR 2. I think that will, I have no like specific information, but like it seems like games. It seems like games for PSVR that where it used to be like anything that was a Sony launch never saw PCVR, but now you see like God of War is on PC, right? So I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the bigger budgets, get put in, come to generate more PSVR 2 games and then make their way to PC. So that there's, anyway, I guess that's a long rambling way of saying I think PSVR 2 will help create more space for developers at the high end of the VR market. Or, high-end visual.
I agree. And when I first got into VR, it was so weird to me. Like, there's enthusiasts and there's good enthusiasts and what I call bad enthusiasts, and there's people out there like cable, no matter what. It's like, come on. And then it's like third person, like we were talking earlier, no, that's not VR. It's like, fuck you, don't tell me what VR is. Like, I'm really bad with names, but the game, or it wasn't made for VR, but there's a great VR version of it with the audio, and you kind of go to hell. Man, can't think of it. It'll come to me, but
like
I
Green
played it
Hell
on
VR
Xbox.
wasn't made for VR, but I don't know what you're referring to.
But No, it's the really dark one where it kind of delves into like hearing voices and stuff.
Oh yeah, probably too scary for me.
Yeah. So I mean, I played on Xbox and the gameplay was like, it's all right. It sounds awesome and looks great, but I didn't really hook me. And then I played in
Senua's
VR.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
Yeah, that was rad in VR. Yeah.
And that's like third person, like she's like right like in your face third person, but it was like I love that freaking game so much. But yeah, and there's all kinds of like even side scrolling VR games and like I love all of it. Like it's so neat to see different perspectives. And like with Barbaria, what I love, you play a third person. If you think of a third person game in a flat screen game like on Xbox or PlayStation, like you play a third person so you can see more of the world. Well, in VR you can see like all of the world because you can turn, and like it's just that perspective is just so magical to me because you can really see behind you, and you can see like if you're in first person in Barbarian, like there's heads rolling behind you, you're not seeing it. It's still really cool and all that, but I love like I said, the option to, because it's also like, if I play a game and if there aren't a lot of updates or I've really just played the hell out of it, which is normally what happens, just having a different perspective is like a whole new game sometimes, and it's really neat to mix it up for me anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's it gives a lot of situational awareness that you're missing when you're in first person. You kind of see the lay of the land around you, which is a cool, fun thing about it. It's also a little bit, there's a few reasons why we call it experimental, and I don't know if we'll leave an experimental thing in there forever. The main one is like we haven't we would need to implement fading out of things between you and the camera, and several things like that. Like it's very easy to get your guy to pull the camera through geometry, or and there's a million ways to solve that, but right now we're just like, well, we're gonna put it in there as experimental, and we're gonna see if people are like, hey, that's rad.
It is. It's like a whole different because in VR you have 1-to-1, and if you take that same mechanic and put it in a third person, and your guy's like much smaller, and you're like swinging like it's different. It's just timing and all that.
I think some of that comes because when I was saying, a large portion of my game dev background was doing PlayStation Move games, and the games we did for that, I mean, they were all 1-to-1 motion controlled, but they were all third person. Like you were always set back from your character. Most of the time, the character was translucent, but so I don't know. I think I just naturally had some initial interest in doing it that way. We also thought for a while, like, oh, maybe this will help because like when VR first came out and we were messing around, and it's like, oh well, I mean, it's still an issue. Sickness is still an issue. Sometimes it feels like, hey, wait, everybody remembers that's still a thing, right? Like that wasn't actually completely solved. But but like the standardization of snap turning and things like that make a huge difference. Like my wife, when I would let her play test and stuff, when it was all smooth turning all the time, like she could do it for a while, and the moment we put in snap turning, she's like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like the smooth locomotion was still okay for her, but the going to the snap turning made a big difference. Anyway, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sure I was making a super important point that everybody is going to be sad that they didn't get to hear. Not at all.
It's interesting, like when you say bring up movement, because my wife can't even play VR, and she hates that she can, but like watching a movie sometimes makes her nauseous. So VR's like even a sit down like nothing happening game gives her, like just putting it on is enough.
Wow.
So what I find interesting, like I mean, I could sit here and go like this for an hour and I wouldn't get sick. Like
similarly useless at testing.
But like I can't do snap turning because that gives me a headache, because it's like my brain like doesn't like that jarring effect. And it's the same with like teleportation and just moving like this. Like everyone's so different. Like that's why like options are best. Like put it all in there from the start. Don't piss anyone off, because there are people like they say teleporting makes them sick, but movement like this is fine, and it's
That's
just
fine.
it's so
Yeah.
crazy like how different everyone reacts to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. That's really interesting about the snap turning. Like, I know people who don't like it. I haven't delved super deep into it, but like, yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, like, oh, I don't like it because I lose. I feel like I lose track of where I am. All that hasn't been my experience, or they find it awkward in various ways. But that's interesting. That's like less comfortable for you. That's cool. Yeah, I mean,
because
well, it's not cool, but
it's like an extra button press in my mind.
Yeah.
Just like, no, I just want to turn to where I know where that person's at or whatever, So it's like just jarring and stuttering to my brain. I'm probably a rare case, but
yeah, but that's just it, right? I mean, it's like you're when developing VR games, right? Like you're slicing, you're already slicing the video game pie pretty thin if your game is VR only in terms of potential user base. So you want to be as inclusive as possible of people who are interested, in VR. Right? You don't want.
And that's like a mistake you still see, like even bigger devs, like with studios and things, like they don't put smooth turn in, and it takes them like a year to add it. It's like, what the hell is that? Like,
yeah,
no, you launch with that. Weird.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, yeah, I would advocate for smooth turning at launch with anybody, but yeah, that's hard.
Smooth turning and left hand options. I mean, those are the big ones.
we actually need to add some better left hand options. The game, I'm glad you didn't have too much. Like the game is basically ambidextrous, but the one place that is gnarly for lefties currently in Barbaria, and we will be addressing this, but like by default when you give a weapon to your guy, he puts it in his primary, in his right hand, which means he equips it to his left hip. So when you first possess a guy, you have to pull the weapon, with your right hand from your left hip, and then you can switch, and then you can equip it back to your comfortable hip. But there's that initial like little juggle you have to do, and it's on our speaking of roadmap, it's in our feature tracker.
Nice.
We just gotta finish it up. But I mean, by and large, right? It's like you quiver on your back, you grab an arrow with your right hand or your left hand, and then we have a slightly different archery mechanic than I've seen in a lot of games. I mean, it's fairly close, but yeah, you grab an arrow, and then the bow pops into your other hand, and you can shoot. Which was,
I found that out like when I first got into the game, and I found out there's a bow. Like I had no issues. And I hadn't played for a couple months, and I just started playing a week or two ago. And I pulled the arrow, like I was like, how do I do this again? Like,
yeah.
I kept pulling the quiver. I'm like, that's no. Like,
yeah.
Then I'm like, oh yeah, wait a minute, duh. But it just kind of made me laugh.
Yeah, that's actually really good to know, because we tutorialize it pretty step by step, because we know that like it's you need to learn, as a player to use it comfortably. You have to understand that once I grab the arrow, the bow is just going to show up. And but yeah, I hadn't heard anybody express that case where several months later I went back to it and it was like had forgot about it and had to relearn. That makes sense. I don't know.
I think it comes from, in my case, I play a lot of freaking games. So if I played something with a bow and then I come back to another one and it's different, then my brain's just kind of stuck there. And it's like, okay, I got it. Like, so that happens a lot with different things.
Yeah, I mean, that happens to me in regular, flat screen games. So I go back and it's like, wait, what was the you always have to learn. I always have to relearn a little bit of control schemes. I mean, there's some that are the standard. It's like hopping between like an old God of War and like the new. Obviously you can like switch your control schemes or stuff, but like that would be like, oh yeah, wait, hold on, I got to go now. I got to use the I'll call it the Dark Souls control scheme. I don't know, but not that they invented our right trigger as an attack, or maybe they did. I don't know. Who knows these things? But versus like square circle and anyway. Yeah,
I have an Elite 2 control. Like ever since Microsoft put out Elite controllers, like that's me, because Again, if Wookie was here, he'd tell you how weird my controls in the past systems have been. So every time I get a new game, it's the first like 20 minutes is me mapping controls. Okay, that's where I want that. And that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was actually another interesting thing I'd noticed about sickness in VR games was that there's a big difference. We've tested it on a wide range, obviously, of players, like even before we even launched the early access and whatnot, and there was a big difference, even a big benefit in terms of reduced sickness for people who were just video gamers in general versus people who weren't, because we wanted to we wanted as much as possible, but like just the being a person who is comfortable using a left thumbstick to something that like every video game developer everywhere here in the universe takes for granted, who is comfortable moving with their left thumbstick and turning the camera, or in this case themselves, with the right thumbstick. Wow, when somebody doesn't know how to do that and they're kind of like doing, kind of like
looking at the ground,
doing around, and then they accidentally like bump the stick and they start spinning, and it's like, oh no, take off the headset. I don't want to ruin your afternoon. But
so I had a lot more questions. We're coming up on an hour, so I don't want to trap you. Is there anything we didn't get to talk about that you wanted to, or?
No,
we don't have to stop an hour. I just try to respect everyone's time.
Yeah, I can go a little longer if cool. You like. I'm not. Yeah. I could take a couple more questions for sure. There's nothing. Yeah. Nothing I need to say.
As far as Barbaria is concerned, was there anything we didn't get to? My other questions are kind of off topic from that, so
sure. I mean, I think we covered a lot of it. I mean, I guess like, I hope anybody watching gets a chance to check it out. You asked about the longevity, and we see it as a game that we're going to be working on for a long time. There's one of the it's pretty unique, I think. Like, I mean, it's obviously there's lots of first person VR combat games, and there are lots of god sim building things, and we've I think tried to marry those in a slick and engaging way. So I hope that's people's experience when they get to play it.
And as always, we're also bad at like telling our viewers things, but like a lot, like you yourself, I think, like you didn't know we did the podcast from within VR. Like we never say like, "Hey, we're in VR talking about this." So it's like a lot of people are like, "You do what?" But
that's very
if you're watching the video or listening to the audio, either version, check the show notes. We'll have links to the game and all that fun stuff. So make it easier to find the game, because I highly recommend checking it out. And if I'm not mistaken, I hope I'm not, I think there's still a demo on Steam that people can just check out. Is that true?
I don't think there is a free downloadable demo.
Sorry, strike that. I'm
but
wrong.
It is Steam, so you can play it. And if you don't like it, you can refund it. And it's only $14.99 at the moment. That price is likely to be going up as we move out of early access. But
nice.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you do get a chance to check it out, come. We're early access. We love feedback in all forms. So we have a Discord and things you can find on our website, and tweet at us any way of any way you want to reach us. We are hungry for feedback.
Awesome. All those links to all those separate things will be in the show notes. Check it out.
Awesome.
Try to make it easy. So some of the questions I just had was more of like your history, like
sure.
Like what was your first like gaming memory from when you were however little?
Oh yeah. My first gaming memory. My parents, I never thought about this before. They had like one of those. We were not like a technologically like advanced household, so it's kind of weird that they had this. But they had like the '70s, like that Pong thing where it had the two. So just to put this in context, I was born in 1981. They had the Pong thing where it had those. All right. That had like the two dials. So you'd like hook it up to like your TV, like hook it in where the rabbit ears go, and there's two paddles, and it was a multiplayer thing, and one guy won. It was just Pong back and forth, controlled with like a dial. So that is my absolute first thing that I remember. First video game that I recall playing.
Nice.
But yeah.
What's throughout the years? What's been your favorite system overall, if you had one?
Oh, that's tough. I'm not. One way to answer this question is to separate the nostalgia factor from the. But I'm not going to do that. So then I would just say the NES, because that was the first. I bought a used Atari 2600 before I had the NES. But like when I got my NES and got first Legend of Zelda and all the the Mario Brothers games and things.
Yeah.
The first Final Fantasy, I just play it like nonstop. That will always be my favorite. I don't know. It's not like if somebody was like, Anyway, I'll just leave it there. Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite game, like no matter what system you're anything, like overall, like that is your game?
Yes. Here I will slightly separate out the nostalgia factor. I would say 2018 God of War is my favorite game of all time, taking into account everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
So real quick about me, I've owned every system that's except for the very obscure ones since whenever. Except for I've never owned PlayStation, any version of it.
Really?
And this is the power of VR to me. I bought a PS5, I don't know, 6 months ago, just to prep for PSVR 2. And I grabbed one because I got a good deal, and I'm like, oh, just check it out. It'll be cool. And I've been enjoying it. I'm playing all the exclusives, obviously, but it's that nothing really against PlayStation. It's just I was always like a Nintendo and Xbox person, and most of the I couldn't justify getting it for like 5 games I couldn't play, but
absolutely.
Yeah, it was just that's the power of VR. Like anyone that knows me, like, oh, you bought a what? Like,
you bought a PlayStation? I got the first PlayStation. We traded in. I never owned a SNES. I had a Sega Genesis and a bunch of games, and we at launch day of PlayStation traded in my Genesis and all the games at whatever it was, Electronics Boutique or something, so I could get money off and get a PlayStation. And then I've owned all the PlayStations.
Nice. That was kind of a thing we did every time one of the major systems came out, just because my parents weren't filthy rich or anything, and I kind of always just fended for myself type of thing. So sometimes when I think back, it's like, God, that sucks. I wish I had it all. But then there's other times where it's like, thank God I don't have all that crap sitting in there.
I was just having this discussion about that exact thing where I was like, somebody's like, so what do you do with old video game systems when you're done? I was like, what do? I put them in a box and then I pretend that I'm going to ever pull them out again. And they sit in the attic taking up space with other things that I also don't need to keep, but I will. Ellen was like, when I have kids, I'm like, oh, maybe one day I'll pull out. Like, am I really going to ever pull out an actual PlayStation 2 and put in a game for my child to play, or will I find some other way for him to play the game, or more likely just be playing different games.
Exactly. The only thing
anyway.
that, like, because I'll throw in, like, I'll play some ROMs here and there and relive some past memories. But the only time I've really spent a ton of time on with like ROMs and stuff is I'm gonna forget the name of this too. It's the VR app that's out there. Shit. They're gonna kill me. But I highly suggest this too, and not to distract from your game, but you load up in an old school 90s bedroom, and you can use all the old TVs, like they have all these models and all the systems, and it's just freaking amazing. And you can play, have like your friend in there and play split screen, and oh my god.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's the only time I've like really spent a lot of time with ROMs and old games like that. So that's pretty fun. But anyway, back to your game, Barbaria. Yeah, I'm pumped to see. I'm so happy you have updates coming out. Like, not that I'm anywhere near bored with the game. I'm just in your last update, I think you maybe added some new pieces or something, because I noticed there were some things that weren't in the shop that I've seen before. So I
there's a lot of stuff.
Seeing stuff like that pop up. So
yeah, we've added a lot since launch. It's actually funny. Like, I go back in here and look at the trailer playing behind us, and it's like that trailer we cut before the early access release. Well, there's actually two. There's kind of two that play back to back, and like we've added multiple minion, new characters since then. We added there's a female champion now. So instead of being the big beefy guy, you can be a gladiatrix who's and we've added, like you mentioned, like they have their own individual powers. We've added new structures. We've added new weapons. We added like these statues that you can use to like decorate your base, like just put massive statues around your realm. And so features like that. We added new actual like gameplay affecting structures, and
it's awesome.
Yeah.
What I really love, and again, for someone who hasn't played this, like you get board pieces, you can buy them or you unlock them as you go and stuff like that. But they all have like multiple like points to where you can connect them, so you can really take a couple of pieces and really make a lot of different things and layouts. And there's obvious like choke points and like all kinds of strategy built into it. It's really neat.
Yeah, as you can see, it's kind of like in the video right there. Yeah, as you're placing them in this, and we've added. That's another thing. Like since launch, we've added many new fragments. We call those fragments, and we've added some more interesting fragments. Like the early ones were a little bit simpler spaces, but now there's some interesting things happening with them, and we'll continue to be adding more and more of those. I mean, there's other customization features on the roadmap. Like you can already make your realm your own, but we want to, continue to push that even farther. So, yeah.
And also in the video, you can see where like you'll pick up your hero's statue, and then you can like take his weapons off, put them on the weapon pedestal or whatever you want to call it. And like I said, you can upgrade everything individually. So you just pick up your hero and add the weapons you want to him, and that's your loadout, and it saves that until you change it. And I just think that's awesome, because again, scale and all that in VR, you just pick up the body you're gonna take over, and then you can just set it up however you want and just drop them in. So cool.
Yeah, and that's how you make your loadout for attacks, and also how you equip your guys. You're like, oh, I want to put an imp up here. I'm gonna give him a bow so he attacks ranged. I'm gonna bomb bags and throwing axe sacks are two things that are coming in the next update.
Sounds fun.
Another thing you can give to yourself or to your minions or to your defenders, they can use an attack, and it's all
I love the diversity. Like you have guys that just kind of spawn in, and again in the video you can kind of see them. They'll just, like you said, cannon up and fly into the map. And I have a lot of fun. Just like I'll see them pop up and just shoot them with a bow out of the air, and they'll fall back down. And if they don't die, they'll pop back up, and you can do it again. Then they're dead.
Just pay them again.
Yeah. So many options. So much fun.
Oh man, like I said, I really appreciate that that you're enjoying it. Like that means a lot to us. That's very cool.
One last question, and I'll be quiet.
No problem.
Just curious, like with the realms and the pieces and stuff. Do you have any on your roadmap or any thoughts for future like area type? Like it's kind of like Castle-y desert. Like you ever be like in a forest setting or actual enclosed dungeon settings or pieces or anything like that?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that. We would like to do, I mean, different, like we call it like a biome at some point. Like you said, like it's kind of got a lot of the same, it's kind of like a broken up rock, kind of deserty, sandy vibe, but like we'd like to do a little bit more of that. So I guess stay tuned. Yeah. We'd also like to do, we'd like to do more in terms of customization. At some point, we'd like to start adding more, like just ways to skin the things that you have as well. Like to, again, make it your own. You can adjust like team colors and things and your crest. And of course, you can adjust how you set up your realm. And we want to add more cosmetic things you can set up like that too. But then just even the ability to, say like, I want my champion to look like this, a little bit more detail, something that we have on our further out roadmap. Not imminent, but
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I don't know how much there is to unlock. I know I haven't unlocked everything, so that's awesome.
We'll try to keep ahead of you with the content updates. Keep ahead of your ability to unlock.
But yeah, whether it's just upgrades and additions like that, or like if you guys, have further down the road, like plans, like you said, for other game types in this game or other like game modes, like more MMO, RPG stuff or whatever, like that's really exciting to me. So I can't wait to see what you guys all end up doing with it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on here. This has been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's so cool doing it in VR like this. I mean, like you said, I didn't know that's what it was going to be initially when you first got it. I was like, oh, but this is rad.
Yeah, it's like, why do you need an asset? And for those watching, audio listeners, you know the drill. But for those watching, we meant to have like a little map and one of the goblins and then the hero in here, but we just had some file issues last minute.
Yeah.
But maybe next time we'll get that going.
Yeah, that sounds.
We've
awesome.
also like some games we could go into your area and put our table there and do the podcast from within your game. That seems to really
thought about that with the
devs up.
Yeah, I thought about that with the we sending you the just like it was basically a couple fragments snapped together, and I was like, oh yeah, like I actually had that thought. I was like, I wonder if they'll just set it on there.
Next time you have a big update and you want to come back, we'll make that happen. We've done it a few times. Awesome. It's really neat. Or we'll have like someone's asset like on a table and it's like a tiny thing in the game and we kind of have it enlarged and they're like, I've never seen this like this before and it seems to really trip up the devs.
Yeah, so like the model is suddenly at like half or quarter scale or half scale.
Yeah.
Or 4x scale.
Yeah, us ourselves, like there's a long backstory of how we got to this. Yeah. And this is great. But we also, I'm not promising anything, but the plan is after December, January, we're going to be moving things to a new platform that'll allow us to have grabbable objects and avatars and names and all that fun stuff. So working on a lot of stuff. Because it'd be neat to like pull out a weapon from Barbaria right now and be like, this is what we're talking about. And
yeah, like a wield the axe.
Yeah. Because on we used to do the podcast in Spatial App till they closed down, which they're coming back. So, but we had like an audience. Anyone could come join and join the chat, and really nice for people to like check out those things from your game, like in person without having the
Yeah.
game. I'm just so we're working to get back to that real as quick as we can. So it's coming, but yeah, it's just fun to show that off and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. That'll be exciting. Look forward to you guys making the jump.
Yeah,
cool.
But this was a great chat, man. I love the game. Obviously, I'm not just saying that because you're here. I really you'll see me stream more of it. October has been super crazy for me, so I'm trying to get back to streaming some more. But yeah, I've never had a bad time. It's one of the first games like I've got half hour. What should I pop in and play? And that's one of the first that pops into my mind. So that's good.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. That's so cool. Right on. Yeah. Thanks again for having me. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Anytime.
Cool.
Thanks everyone for hanging out and watching, listening. We'll be back next week. Otherwise, like I said, check the show notes. We'll have Discord for Barbaria, the Discords, Twitters, links to the games on all platforms. Check it out.